Hello, hello, hello. We are back, and we're going to read the next part of Merlin, Master of Magic by Gordon Strong. If you didn't see the first video that goes to this, I suggest that you do. It will be linked at the end of this video, and you should go check it out because we read about Morgan Le Fay. Also, do you guys see? I'm getting a pimple on the tip of my nose, like the very tip. I feel like a witch. Okay, so we were continuing with now going off from Morgan Le Fay into the Lady of the Lake, whom he calls Nimue, but we'll get to all of her names. Tales abound of the union of a mortal man and an immortal female, stories which invariably end in tragedy. The most well-known involves Gwyn, a farmer's son, who pines for a water nymph he has once seen on the shore of the lake near his home. After a year has passed, she returns, and when he declares his love, she agrees to marry him, having first obtained her father's permission. Blech. A handsome dowry is offered. Blech. As many sheep, cows, goats, and horses as you can count in a single breath. But there is one provision. Her husband must never strike her, and if he does, warns the father, then she will return to me and bring in her wake all that she possesses. The couple are wed and remain happily so for the time it takes to be blessed with 3 sons. Unfortunately, the husband does fall prey to temper and strikes his wife 3 times. So the father's stricture comes true, with indeed tragic results. On the 3rd blow, the wife immediately returns to the lake, which swallows her up. The distraught father follows her into the water, only to be drowned. The name Nimue has many characters. Excuse me. The name Nimue, as many characters in the Arthurian tales do, has multiple variations. Nimue, 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 Ninian, Nineve, or even Vivienne, Vivain, Vivian. She is also Bride of the Celts, strong disagree. Who is virginal and pure, strong disagree. A healing goddess who gives succor to all in travel. The father of Nimue was Dionys, the godson of Diana the Huntress. Disagree. See, as you see, if you have not seen the first video yet, he's wild. He's wild. He's wild. Gordon Strong is wild. He's wild. That's all I can say. He's wild. He equates all of these pantheons together, but at the same time, he has a very specific idea of the history of our world and how Atlantis came first and then Egypt, and that these cast of characters just moved through the world, and it's so bizarre, but also interesting and fun to learn about. Even though I don't believe Gordon Strong's stuff at all. Like, it's fascinating though. Okay. Anyway. The lake was in Brittany and known as the Lake of Diana. Disagree. So as a child, Nimue knew the woods and rivers of Diana's kingdom. Disagree. The goddess one day predicts that Nimue will win the love of the wisest man in the world. This water sprite is in essence yet another Atlantean figure who's a part of the great matriarchal culture that held sway in that place. Disagree. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong and he's right, and this is all true. Wouldn't that be crazy? Her kind, the fairy women, have already taken up residence in Britain, even before Merlin arrives at the sacred isle with Igraine. Now, Igraine, as we know, is usually portrayed as Morgan Le Fay's mother and Arthur's mother. Their role then was to demonstrate to a relatively primitive culture that the ways of magic were ever present and had control of the forces of existence. Okay, it's a little colonizing. The world of fairy existed in harmony with the mortal universe for quite some time. Now, see, I do believe that is true. The influence of Christianity eventually becomes so insidious that ordinary people were not permitted to acknowledge, let alone embrace the old ways. I mean, that's true. It was considered wicked to believe in fairies, and the imposing of guilt combined with ridicule in heavy doses is a guaranteed method of destroying a faith in anything. Totally true. The Celts are one of several cultural groups that have a lively fairy tradition. The Irish are particularly associated with the little people, who diminutive, ugh, though they may be, not true, are always powerful. True. Traditionally, they wear green, not true, so as to blend into the landscape, not true. Though the red cloaks they also sport announce their presence to mortals. Sure, Jan. The beneficial power of fairies appears to be as an aid for growth of animals and plants. Okay. It's as if the fairy presence somehow encourages vitality. That is true. Certain mediums can see the aura or spirit of trees. True. So I mean, I hope you guys see where I'm coming in with like true and yes and okay. Anyway. So it seems reasonable that the fairy kingdom is the physical expression of this aspect of nature. Fairies take an interest in the domestic life of humans. Okay. Applauding the dutiful maid and helping her in visible ways to be the epitome of neatness and cleanliness. In Kabbalistic terms, I don't like this. In Kabbalistic terms, I can't pronounce this word. Netchek is the Sephiroth of the Fairy Queen, while Hod is Puck. Disagree. The Queen of Elfland has 59 silver bells on her bridle. Disagree. The significance of the number seems lost to us now. Perhaps the numerologist might suggest that when the number is added laterally, it totals 14, which is a double heptad, 7 being a mystical number. Okay, that was overly complicated for no reason. In our own times, these fairy beings can still be contacted, and sensitive individuals often do so. Their presence in ancient woods and places of power can be felt quite easily even by those who may not actively be seeking them. Tales are still told of the fairy band, whose music entices travelers to follow them into strange and lonely places, where they succumb to an unnatural sleep. Fairies seem to be abroad, mostly on a summer's eve, when a glint amongst the trees betrays their presence. Fairies are out there all the time. It is well to know that the intentions of the fairy race are not always for the benefit of humanity, and many have heartily regretted their association with these creatures from another time, for it is their attachment to the past that makes them dangerous. They cannot ever change to become part of our own times, and so they wish to take mortals into their own realm. Those who are flattered by the attention of fairies and accompany them seldom return from that enchanted kingdom. Okay. The Arthurian tales span the change of consciousness of man and his ultimate failure to secure the spiritual salvation of the Grail. The function of the Lady of the Lake in the Arthurian tales relates not only to Merlin, but indirectly to Arthur, or rather to what a king represents. By presenting the youthful monarch with Excalibur, she is directing his untamed virility into a transcendental force. That is her intention, and had it succeeded, or rather had Arthur acted in a different manner, all would have been well. The acquisition of Excalibur should have awakened the female element in Arthur, and given him the polarity that Merlin owns, which is very Odinistic. But this was not to be. His incestuous coupling with Morgan Le Fay, and his inability to relate to Guinevere, his queen, amply demonstrate that his spiritual growth remains stunted throughout his life. There is much to be said for the view that his youthful lust becomes a debilitating impotence, and it is he who is the Fisher King. See, but this is going off of the Christian myths of Arthur, and I like to try to go back and look at them through a pagan lens and take out all these Christian references, like the damning of the incest, the evilness of Morgan Le Fay, the passiveness of Guinevere. I like to take all that out and infuse paganism into it. But, okay. To return to our theme of the union of mortal and immortal, the Lady of the Lake may have once been married to a mortal. Nothing is known of him except his honorary title, Imrys of... I'm not good at pronouncing Welsh Gaelic. Nothing is known of him except his honorary title, Imry of... Powys? Sure. This is one of the titles owned by Merlin. So it may not have been passed on to him. The actual lake provides us with another dimension of meaning, for it is the astral plane, and only those who truly acknowledge this other world that can be privy to its secrets. In Kabbalistic terms, it is Yesod, the dominion of the moon, presided over by Isis, who sits before the veil. Merlin is obviously associated with the Sephiroth of Hod. The planetary correspondences are Mercury and the moon, respectively. The Kabbalah path between the Sephira is represented by the tarot card of the sun, the ultimate cosmic energy. So do you see how dense and intense this got very quickly? We were talking about the Lady of the Lake, but then we were talking about the fairies. Then we went back to the Lady of the Lake, and then we went into this crazy like Egyptian Kabbalah stuff, and like it's just unnecessary. This book is wild. It's wild. It's wild. And it's supposed to it's supposed to just be about Merlin, Master of Magic. Like, it's wild. But that's kind of why I love it. The characters who present Arthur with his Excalibur is a different Lady of the Lake than the lover of Merlin. The former is the foster mother of Lancelot, abandoned when his father's kingdom was ravaged by a rebellion. This tale bears a great similarity to the Greek myth of Thetis, a sea nymph who raises Achilles, also a great warrior. The husband of Thetis is Peleus. And in some versions of the tale of Nimue, she takes the knight Peleus as her lover. Sure. Thetis gives Achilles a magical shield and armor to protect him, as Lancelot is later to be given protection by a magical ring, the gift of Nimue. Some resemblance to the tale of Melusine is also apparent. She is one of 3 daughters raised in Avalon who acquires the serpent's tail as punishment for imprisoning her own father. She marries, and her secret is discovered by her husband, who has spied upon her while she is bathing. Melusine. It's really hard to go through cultural like pronunciations all in one paragraph. You're like, how do Greeks pronounce things? How do Welsh Gaels pronounce things? It's a lot. Okay, anyway, she turns into a dragon and flies away when she's found bathing. Lancelot does not even know his name, and does not do so until he journeys to King Arthur's court at the behest of Nimue. There, on meeting Guinevere, he immediately falls in love with her and gains his celebrated title. The ring that Nimue gave Lancelot has the power of resisting enchantment, and he subsequently uses his magical artifact when he rescues Guinevere in a later escapade with the queen. Nimue also gives Guinevere the gift of a magical shield, which is split. The image painted upon the shield is of a knight and a lady kissing, but their lips cannot touch because of the split, which is very much like Lancelot and Guinevere, because while Guinevere is married to Arthur, there's this love triangle with Lancelot, and in some myths it's like very bisexual because Arthur also has love for Lancelot and vice versa, and all 3 have a love for each other. It can be very polyamorous. Like, it's fascinating. You guys, I can't get over this. I'm not even mad about it. Like, I feel like a witch, like a hag witch from Halloween. Okay, anyway, this book is wild. With their love, when their love is consummated, the shield will be made whole. This Nimue does not suffer such a pleasant fate, being murdered by Sir Balin. That knight is then cursed, and his rash behavior in the castle Carbonek is one of the causes of the kingdom becoming the wasteland, in all caps. Jesus Christ. Okay. It goes on and on and on from here, but I will spare you, because he just rambles on so much. So much. This book is wild. He talks about how Merlin is actually Odin, and how he goes to the World Tree. He talks more about the Greeks. He talks about how Merlin was in the court of Isis and Osiris. This book is wild. And I read those 2 passages for you, this one and the Morgan Le Fay, just to give you a taste of how, like, mind-boggling it can be to read. But it's fascinating at the same time. Fascinating. Oh my gosh, I forgot about this. I saw it as I was flipping. He equates Merlin with comic book characters. Like, it's worth your time. It really is. But the book is just wild and all over the place and crazy. But it's really fun to dissect. And I keep going back to it all these years later. Like, I keep going back to it. It's a really fun book. So anyway, Merlin, Master of Magic. If you want to go into a spiral of madness, pick this book up. Bye, you guys.